Hello, everyone. Welcome to my review of the Gearbox Pro Power Ultimate Elongated 14 millimeter. So a couple of things I wanted to mention about this paddle is first off, it is PB Core approved and has both the USAP stamp of approval and the USAP Quiet stamp of approval. I'm going to try and see if my camera will focus on those here. Um, and it is one of the first paddles I've seen to both have the quiet stamp and the regular approval stamp and be we'll call it in the premier paddle category, as opposed to kind of just more some of these niche quiet approved paddles. With that being said, I do think this is something we're going to see more frequently, as a lot of people are aware of noise being a potential issue, and in some communities, an actual issue in the pickleball space. Moving on from that, mine came in at a swing weight of 122. I added about 5 to 6 inches on the bottom corners going into the face of a thinner version of 1 gram lead tape, just solely because this is an edgeless paddle. So with it being edgeless, I like to use the thinner tape, as the bigger tape sometimes runs into the face a little, and I don't really like that. I use true lead for this. I just find lead does the best personally for me with edgeless paddles and with a lot of paddles as opposed to tungsten, but I do like and use tungsten often with some of my other paddles as well, and it's just kind of mix and match as I'm reviewing. So the other thing I did want to mention in terms of stuff I did, I added one of Gearbox's new dry overgrips. I've been testing these for about 2 weeks now, the overgrips, and they're good. I definitely recommend either going white or black with them. If you use this pink and then you switch to a paddle that doesn't have a pink grip, the pink will then immediately stain from your hand onto the paddle. So it's that, or you just kind of wash your hands in between switching paddles during a session. But as some of you know, when you're playing, you like to be on the same court, kind of rotating through paddles if you're someone that plays a lot of different paddles in a session. And so, yeah, I just wanted to give that heads up on those. Really like the grips otherwise, though. I also really like the improved grip band on this. Again, something people don't talk about enough is the grip bands on paddles. For those of us that like them, this one feels really nice when you're swinging, especially on two-handed backhands. And so I did want to mention that. Let's dive into a little bit about this paddle. So this paddle has Gearbox's patented SST core, and it also has the raw carbon fiber rib structure for the core construction. The facing material is a Toray T700 raw carbon fiber, and the core material is also a 140 FAW Toray T700 carbon fiber. And that information is from Gearbox directly in terms of materials. It is an elongated shape, as you can see here. The weight typically comes in at 8 ounces. Mine with the added lead is at 8.3 ounces. For static weight, my swing weight is 124 with the added lead. Without it, it was 122. And my current paddle length is, I believe, the 16 and a half, and I believe it's 11 this way, and it's 7.38 or 7 3/8 this way. If I'm correct, 14 millimeter thickness, and overall, it's just kind of from there. It's your standard Gearbox edgeless paddle. If you had anything like the Pro Power Elongated, this is pretty much the same setup. So let's dive into this paddle. So this paddle is supposed to be the replacement for the Pro Power Elongated that is getting sunset this July. So with that being said, let's dive into some chats about it. So this is a power paddle. Yes. Do I think that this is like the top of the top power paddle like the Pro Power Elongated was? No, I don't. I think this is a much toned down version of it, which I do think is a good thing. I think the Pro Power Elongated was just a little too hot at times, especially once one that really broke in. But I actually have kind of been a little disappointed in this not really hitting as hard as I thought it would. I was kind of expecting a cannon, and it hits hard, but it's definitely starting to break in for me a little bit more now and starting to open up. But It's just very similar to the kind of original Pro Power Elongated, where there is a break-in period for it. But kind of more about the power side to it. It's a pretty similar, smaller sweet spot size. I would say it's probably around here would be the sweet spot on this. You know, kind of a nickel to dime size sweet spot. And definitely add some lead. I will say those of you cautious of high swing weight, you're gonna have to be really careful because it comes in at a higher swing weight than most edgeless elongated paddles would. So you're gonna have to be really careful kind of what setups you use to get that additional stability in the paddle. With that being said, I do like this paddle. I would put this paddle probably around the kind of paddle techs to a little bit above those, kind of maybe into that kind of Gen 3/Gen 4-ish power area. I think something that hits probably, aboutish as hard as this would be kind of the Vapor Power and the Hirachi X Power by the new paddles by 11.624. I think those are very similar power levels to this. So with that being said, I would say if you're someone that likes a power paddle, in particular, if you like Gearbox paddles and you want the power paddle, this is the paddle for you. If you're someone that is new to kind of the power paddle world and edgeless paddles, I wouldn't really recommend this just because I think it's more of an acquired taste, as they would say. I believe, to my knowledge, it's coming in at the same, you know, kind of 270 to 280 price range. I will have an affiliates link linked in the bio, as well as in my discounts codes lists that I put in all of my videos, along with in the link tree on the channel. So you have multiple ways in which you can get to the affiliates link to use to help support the channel, help us do more reviews like this, and get yourselves a discount on the paddle. I believe it is a 20% discount. Correct me if I'm wrong in the comments, please, but that is what Gearbox told me. I've only tested it once and it looked to be that. So with that being said, let's talk more about this paddle now. So kind of what do I think is the big difference from the Pro Power Elongated to this? I feel like is a question that's often going to be asked when it comes to this paddle, and it's a question I'm ready to take on. So let's do it. So I think the big difference with this one is you can actually control it more so than the Pro Power Elongated. Like that was the one thing I remember I was hitting a friends of mine when they first got it, and we both were kind of really underwhelmed. We were like, what? Like, what? Why isn't this the cannon that we thought it was? And I said, look, just let me get on the baseline and start slapping the ball. And that's what I did. And it started to open it up a little. And, after a couple play sessions, it would open up a bunch. And then I remember like a couple weeks in, I was at a play session, and anytime they would drive the ball at my friend, he'd just stick the paddle out like this, and the ball would just launch out of bounds. And so it was at the point that it was like, how do you even play with this thing? Like it's too hard to control. And so I think that's exactly what is fixed here with the ultimate iteration of this is it's a more controllable version of the paddle, and it really allows you to just really dive in and kind of play your game. It's for a power player. It's for someone that's looking to hit the ball, but they could also dink. You can reset with it. You can hit all the shots with it. The spin's good. It's probably, I think about probably middle of the road spin. You definitely get a little more from kind of that extra boost of power, especially on kind of the forehand, backhand, ground stroke in particular, more so than at the kitchen line, I would say. But yeah, one other thing I do like too about this paddle is that for a 124 swing weight that this is, it's very light in the hand. I feel very quick about switching size motion. And that is something that's big when I review paddle and I look into is how fast can I be at the kitchen line with my hands, because I feel like that's where pickleball is at right now, is who's got fast hands and who's able to use them to win the point. So with that being along with drives, but with that being said, this is my review of the Pro Power Ultimate 14 millimeter for Gearbox. I really enjoyed doing this. I want to thank Gearbox again for sending me this for review. I've got a couple more Gearbox paddles coming up kind of as we go down the road here, and I'm really excited to review and tell you guys about. If you haven't yet, be sure to check out the podcast, especially the last one. I believe it was episode 29, where I do talk about some of the Gearbox paddles, the current and coming up ones, and I compare them to some of the older ones. All right. Thank you guys, and have a wonderful day.